So thank you for doing this, joining
Just
me
to make
today, Graham.
things
I really
interesting.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
So first off, how did you grew up in Glasgow and everything? How did the band come together, and what made you pick this? Not the most obvious of names, naming yourself after a Japanese manga, but how did it all glue? How did the glue come together with everyone, and that get picked?
Well, me and Fergus kind of met sort of through university friends, really, because he was at Glasgow Uni at the time, and I just lived around the corner. We kind of started going to see bands like Ride and Slow Dive at the King Tut's, and we kind of we're both really into Galaxy 500, so we kind of bonded a bit over that, and just kind of sort of played some Galaxy 500 tunes in the flat and like my crappy amp. But we kind of both kind of invited each other to join our imaginary bands. So he joined my band and I joined his band, and that kind of set up the pattern for the kind of next few years. We met Elaine, or Fergus met Elaine in a nightclub and just dared her to play bass for us. And then we kind of had a couple of different drummers out for the first 6 months. We were messing about in recording studios or rehearsal studios. So say we weren't ready to record at that point. But one night we were in 13th Note, and we didn't have a drummer with us, but we always hung out there anyway because we went to the kazoo club every Tuesday night and kind of had a few beers and watched the bands. But the Alex Alcapranos came and just said, "Look, one of the bands hasn't shown. We've got a gap. Do you guys want to get up and just play?" And we obviously never had a drummer with us, but Ian had watched us play a couple of times. So we thought, how difficult can this be? I mean, I think his exact quote is, yeah, my real kind of passion is classical guitar, but I'm sure the skills will transfer. We'll just give it a bash. So it seemed to go fine. It was no worse than usual. So he was in.
Cool.
We As far as the name goes, we really struggled over names for ages. It's like when you're kind of naming a band, it's like you decide on the Stone Roses, and then like 2 minutes later, someone's in the top 40 with that name and that band, or whatever. You have to kind of change it. So after a couple of things that we chose, that was kind of really similar to other bands that we just found out about weeks down the road, we just decided, right, what's the stupidest thing that we could possibly choose for a band name? And I was very into comics in general. Like we were thinking that originally might have called ourselves Neat Stuff to piss off Peter Bagg, because he's a comic creator who's very much on the record as saying, I don't want bands to steal my pictures and my words for like flyers. And so we always made a point of trying to use his artwork on flyers and stuff, just as a kind of funny joke. But we ended up choosing the name Urusei Yatsura because it was just like I think at the time in America they'd only issued about six kind of issues of this kind of translation of this really really popular manga from Japan, and we didn't know anything about it apart from these six black and white issues that ended up in a comic shop in Glasgow. And I started buying them because I just a bit of a comic fan. I like anything that's unusual. I like black and white, rather than kind of color comics. So we just decided to name ourselves after that because it just seemed kind of irreverent and a little bit silly, but also kind of good in a weird sort of way. And we just thought that would kind of be the worst possible thing, or the best possible thing we could name ourselves. But we knew nobody else was going to do it, so that was good enough. Used that. It's kind of got the pros and cons to it. Like it's hard to say it. You want to spell it and say it all the time because you feel dead smart. So I guess if there was any thinking that went into it, that's the justification.
Yeah, I must admit it does book the trend for bands in the 90s, because bands in the 90s either had the something, or there was just one word like an item of something like Sterling or even Blur or something. You sort of booked the trend and went in a completely different route with what the name you picked.
Yeah. Well, we always kind of went to the 13th Note, which is just a kind of the kazoo club that Alex kind of ran, was basically a lot of just come along play. So we saw a lot of bands, and it seemed like the naming convention in the early 90s was basically, well, the band Radiohead is basically that's all the conventions of naming in the 90s. It was radio something, radio honey, radio gun, you know, engine head, pistol head, like these kind of mixtures of these kind of words just seemed to be all the band names that were coming through. And we just, I mean, the good thing about going to seeing loads of random bands is just deciding kind of what you don't want to do or what you don't want to be. It's just a good way to find out what you're against as much as as what you're for. One of the things we didn't want to do was be a big band called Radio Honeyhead in Shea Stadium. You know what I mean? The best gig in like a four band lineup is going on around about 9 o'clock and doing 20 minutes and getting off and drinking your rider. That's the right way to do it. Don't take it seriously. Don't give yourself a highfalutin name and expect people to love you when you're in a 50 capacity cellar. It's
Yeah,
mental.
yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah. Now you was signed on the indie label. How do you pronounce it? Is it Chi or Chai?
Che, I think it was after Che Guevara. I guess
Ah, right.
that's the kind
Yes.
of so yeah.
Did you receive any other interest from any other labels or bigger labels than them, or how can you remember?
Well, kind of at the time, in Glasgow, you would never come into contact with kind of people from labels. It just wasn't done. I think all previous kind of Glasgow groups have to go down to London, and I guess to an extent that's kind of what we did. There's a bit more of a kind of label kind of scene up here since then. But you really, if you stayed in Glasgow and played, labels would never know you existed. It's so we very much kind of went to the effort of approaching labels, ourselves. I think I'd kind of decided there was about six labels that I wouldn't mind being on. And after we'd had our first Peel session and we'd put out like split single and things like that, I'd contacted about six labels that I thought I'd quite like to be on. And Shay were kind of the ones who kind of got back to us and kind of followed up. So, we had a kind of, we auditioned them and thought they were good people. So, we're kind of happy to go with them. I think we originally were only going to do like a couple of singles or something like that, but they got a really good response to it, and we were just really keen to get out and play like everywhere. And that was our kind of ticket to ride, really, just getting down to England to play. So when we started out, we had nothing, we had like a guitar each, a borrowed bass, and a 1940s, dance band kind of kit, So we just went out, and just kind of worked away from there. But Shay helped us kind of get out on the road really and get stuff recorded. And it's just you couldn't really kind of move on without that. So I mean, original our thought was really to kind of like the group Stereolab at the time were doing their duophonic label and just putting out lots of kind of weird colored 7-inch singles and kind of albums and taking care of themselves. So we thought I'd really like to do that, but it's quite hard to do it when you're on job seekers benefit. It's you really need some money behind them, and after that you need some contacts, and we didn't really have any of that like up in the middle of nowhere, which is crazy because Glasgow's like one of the biggest cities in Scotland, but it just didn't really seem to be kind of anything going on as far as kind of a record industry there. Just, it's a mixed blessing. It's really good because you don't get bothered. It's like after we started kind of touring, we were in Camden a lot. The Camden scene of the 90s was really big. But you saw like there was like bands from London who would like play two gigs and then they'd be on the front cover of Melody Maker.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, who needs that pressure? If we were in the front cover of Melody Maker after our first two gigs, we wouldn't have lasted a single because we were crap. You just needed some time to develop and find out what you're about.
Yeah, that's really, you sort of answered what I was going to say next. And did you find it hard to get noticed in that? And when did you decide to move down to London and everything? Because you're not the only band at the time to come from Scotland and Glasgow and that. I mean, there was Bass and the Gyres and 18 Wheeler. I think he was on tour with the Delgados at one point. Was you not? You was with them.
Yeah, we've played with the Dogados and Biss and Dundee Spear Snare. If you heard these guys, who else have you played with? Lung Leg, Yummy Fur, all these bands.
Oh yeah,
We used to kind of promote kind of gigs in Glasgow as well. At this place called Nice and Sleazy's. It was like a kind of a kind of little bit step up from the 13th Note basement. It had a bit of a bigger PA and stage and things like that. So we used to kind of put band nights on there, and just everyone we liked that we'd kind of come across, we'd get them to do these kind of four band setups. But we did a kind of fanzine as well, kind of writing about kind of local bands and American bands, like just bands we liked, more independent sort of style stuff. And that was kind of tied in with that, So we would kind of print off like 500 fanzines, and like the first 100 people through the door would get a fanzine, or get a record once we started putting records out, for these bands. So yeah, that's kind of we were just kind of doing things for ourselves, quite a lot of the time. But like I say, to get out of Glasgow, really had to kind of get some support,
yeah. I mean, you won't
a
find that
money issue more than
nowadays.
anything. You know?
No one will give you a record if you're with
Uh,
the first 100 people in the door of a show. You won't get that now. No.
yeah, yes. I don't know. We just looked at it as, I thought it paid for itself. It was kind of, it
Mm,
was worth it because you're I
yeah,
mean, I guess records are really expensive to do now, much more than they used to be. But we just thought like basically you're basically ensuring that 200 people will get a record. And if you're trying to sell, I mean, it seems insane now that if you sell 500 singles, you're probably going to be on top of the, well, not top of the pops now, but you'll be in the charts. But back then, 500 was like your basic. That's fine.
yeah,
As long as we clear that, we'll get some space back in the cupboard. But it seemed really doable at the time. I think just more people were buying records. More people were going to gigs. And it's maybe not fair. I mean, people still go to gigs and stuff, but I guess just the whole download situation now is it's just changed. That the physical kind of product is now like a luxury.
yes, yeah. It is sort of that luxury now. Everyone just has it in the palm of your hand, isn't it? It's nothing. I mean,
Yeah, it's too. I think when something's maybe too easy to get, it becomes less precious in the course of that as well. I mean, it's really same as swings and roundabouts, and it's good in one way and it's bad in another way. But I've just got that kind of old guy mentality. I've got to hold it in my hand. I like an object.
yeah.
It's like if I'm trying to think of something to play. I can't just go, all right, hey, I want to play this record. I want to kind of flip through records, and see, oh, there's the cover. That's what I want to play. It's going to be The Fall again, something like that.
It's funny how when I have my own collection, you often find you'll go past them all, just pick the same one out time after time. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've got a little kind of like kind of wee kind of shelf at the record player. It's the kind of the running favorites, the newer things that I've bought, or this the thing I keep coming back to. Just these things sit on there all the time, and then there's shelves at the back with everything else. You sometimes have to remember we've got more than 20 records. You can just go and kind of pick something else, but it's yeah, there's definitely your favorite sitting by the player.
yeah. Are you more of a record person yourself over CD then, or what? Which do you
Yeah,
prefer?
yeah, yeah, probably vinyl. It's kind of quite nice, CDs for a wee bit, but it's one of those things you kind of get into it and it's new and you kind of enjoy it, and it's definitely kind of more compact, more kind of easy to use, maybe arguably better sound, in some ways. But once you're used to it, it's kind of a wee bit boring because it's kind of small and it's the artwork. It's not enough kind of size for that really to impress, and it's just a little bit kind of non-impressive as a format. I mean, it's really practical, but it's just not. It's a bit heart missing or something. I don't know, but yeah. So I mean, I stopped using CDs like ages ago. I think, well, I could either get the CD out, or I could just play the download. So why go into the extra step of getting the CD out? The case where you could just kind of play the actual file from your computer or something. So I went that way for a long time. I was only playing kind of MP3s and downloads, and then I kind of went back to vinyl. So I think it's when you start getting of a certain age, you kind of start regressing to whatever you're into at the age of 17, and that can be really dangerous. But I guess like vinyl is kind of like a one of the more harmless kind of ways of going back to your youth in it.
Yeah, I'm a CD guy myself. I don't have much in the term of vinyl, but I do have a little bit. But yeah, that's where I'm at. No, yeah. Now I do have next to me a list. When you come down to London and done a few shows, you actually did go on tour with a few bigger bands. I mean, in 1998, what was that like when you was on tour with Garbage in '98, and you did quite a few festivals, but you were still quite you were still sort of the big cult like indie band underneath the main bit, sort of underneath. But what was it like being on tour with bigger bands? I mean, you've got see there you was with Buffalo Tom, Foo Fighters, and everything towards the end of the '90s. What was that like playing with bigger bands?
Yeah, a lot of them are kind of like one-off shows, which is great. I mean, we always used to really enjoy just being a support band because you go on, you do like half an hour, so that's your kind of your tight set, and
Yeah,
then you basically are with the rest of the night to watch the other band who you wouldn't really be supporting if you didn't want to watch them. So that's the ideal way of being in a band, really. I don't know, maybe we just weren't really thirsty for the glory around like that of like headlining, but it's kind of crap headlining. You get off stage and the bar's shut, everyone's gone home, there's no one to talk to, there's no time to sit around and decompress with a drink, unless you're doing one of these kind of great shows like kind of the oh god the lead mill or something like that where it's a club afterwards, so you just sit and kind of go to a club after you've finished kind of playing or something like that. But usually you're just basically kind of ushered into a van and you've got to kind of load it up, and in the worst case scenario, it's the kind of fourth or fifth load out of the night. You're kind of loading in from your rehearsal room, you're kind of driving it, loading it out to the gig, taking it back out to the van, back to the rehearsal room to store it, and that's
yeah,
just it's no fun being a headline band if you're doing that. I mean, at least if you're going to be putting the gear in the van at the end of the night, you might as well be half cut when you're doing it. It's kills the pain. But yeah, I think the biggest tour we maybe did with a bigger band was the Super Furry Animals. We kind of supported them for quite a few that Radiator tour.
yes,
It's kind of funny.
yeah,
Our first album came out about the same time as their first album, and we kind of got an indie number one with that, and they were indie number two. Apparently, Alan McGee was really pissed off, really angry. Oh, that was hilarious. But they kind of leapfrogged us really quickly. Do you know what I mean? They kind of moved on to kind of like a kind of higher strata of venues like the 2000 capacities, thing like that. So we were kind of supporting them in there. So we kind of went and did our set, had a great laugh, had a few drinks, and watched them playing the Man Don't Give a Fuck, every night for about like 20 nights in a row or something. It was
wow,
it was really good. It's just really nice. Same festivals, you kind of basically go and play, and we were kind of always keen to just kind of hang around for the whole event. It's nice if you can go to festivals, see all the bands and have that experience, but still be able to go backstage and have a crap if you want to. It's the toilets in the band area are just head and shoulders above everything they kind of make everybody else go through. So it kind of makes the experience a little bit more pleasant. Be a fool.
yeah. Well, you had one single reach the top 40. How was that? You had one. I have got it written down. It was Hello Tiger. It was Hello Tiger made the top 40, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got it
It
right.
was, it was like quite lucky to get that, I guess. But it's one of those other kind of hilarious kind of I don't know, hilarious, silly things that kind of happened to us. Really, we were kind of promoting that on tour, and we were kind of doing like we were playing in the afternoon and kind of like Virgin Megastores, and then playing at night at the gigs, and sort of signing records, all this kind of weird, crazy stuff that you suddenly go, oh my God, people are expecting us to kind of sit behind a table and sign records. That's mental. Why do people want this? But fair enough, you just take your biggest marker and you know. So I did all the covers of the records. I thought, oh, it's funny just me gonna spend this time doing this, and then I'm just gonna put a magic marker over the top of it.
Yeah.
But we did all this, and we did about midweek we were kind of number 18 or something like that. And they were, Shay were telling us this, and they were all getting really excited and going, "Ah, it's brilliant! We're going to be top 20. This has really worked." And that they'd forgotten it was like Brits Week or something. So obviously everyone went on Saturday, went in and kind of brought, I don't know who the hell, Whitney Houston or whoever the big act was at the time, and we went sort of down and just clung on at number 40. So it's at 40 for 1 week. But that's it. No, I leave that bit out. I say, "Oh, I had a top 40 single, don't you know?" But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny though, because before it came out, we were all joking amongst ourselves that this is going to be number 41, because that'd be the most hilarious thing that could happen. So we were going to get all these t-shirts printed up with a number 41 on the back. And we ended up not doing it because we thought we'd kind of curse ourselves, and we've decided to kind of cross our fingers and hope for the best. But it was even more funny that it kind of happened the way it did, I think. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're crazy kind of laughing at that sort of stuff, but it's just I take it seriously. It's the highest position we'd ever got. So it's
Oh
not
yeah.
like not like it was a disaster. Just
No.
yeah, it was right for getting excited midweek.
Yeah, definitely take it. I would take it. Hey, why not? Now, was there any song that you would have liked released as a single but wasn't out of your back catalogue? Is there anything that did you have a favourite song that you think, oh, I wish that had come out as a single, but it didn't get put out?
Yeah, probably. I mean, when I've been going through listening to kind of stuff for the archive now, I've just got reacquainted with the albums from like a bit of a distance, but more of a perspective at the time. But there's definitely a few. I mean, we had this like terrible thing where maybe everyone gets it, but the last song that's written for an album, you just don't know it's good until you've played it a few times. Do you know what I mean? It's like because obviously if you write a song, you're gonna like it, because you enjoy it, you're intimately involved with it, but you don't know if it's any good until the first time you play it in front of an audience. So a few songs suffered from that. Like we did a later on a single for Beggar's Banquet that had K-Tronica as the lead track, but the lead track should have been the second song, which is called Still Exploding. That was a much better single pick, but we just finished it, so we didn't really know if it was good. But listening now, it's obvious that the order of that should have been swapped around. Um, from the first album, we had quite a lot of singles on there because we'd been doing singles leading up to it, so we had them on because I wanted it really to be like a kind of um, a record, rather than a record. Do you know what I mean? It was like
Yeah,
a kind
yeah.
of a record of our progress sort of thing. But of that, there's a song on that Fergus had called Pachinko, which I thought was like a really, really, underused kind of pop single. That would have been really good, I think. He's no such a big fan of that one. Yeah, I think he kind of sort of doesn't enjoy it as much as I do, but it's a great little tune. Um, what else? I mean, yeah, sometimes I think I listen to the second album and think almost any song in it could have been a single. But we had there was a kind of a song on there that was mostly kind of acoustic guitar, and it was a bit prettier. It was called King of Lazy, and it was kind of a little bit unlike the sound that we had for the rest of the record. But the record label were like, "Yeah, this is a single. This is a single. You really, all you need to do is go back and record a bit, re-record a bit at the start because the singing's a wee bit out of tune." And I'm like, I can't hear it say a tune. Let's fix this. So nah, put something else out. But if we'd done it, it might have given us a breakthrough because it was just less abrasive in the kind of sounds of the guitars and things like that compared to the rest of the album.
Yeah,
But again, swings and roundabouts, the words are kind of hilariously abrasive. They're really over the top and kind of nasty. So
yeah,
I think that's probably what I was thinking when I thought, well, I'll play this on the acoustic guitar, but I don't want it to sound like I'm an acoustic troubadour. So I'm just going to swear my head off like all the way through this or something. We got a kind of a parental advisory label on that album, which was another kind of proud accomplishment. I don't know if you remember those from back in the 90s.
yeah.
There to kind of save your impression of children from foul-mouthed Glaswegians. So it must have done its job. We were no longer going. So
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. The parental advisory stuff. But now I know you did a lot of fanzine interviews and things back in the day, and I do have a copy of. Don't know if you can remember this one, all about D and Friends issue 7 here. Now I don't. This isn't the one with your
All right.
reviewing. This with your interviewing. This has a review of one of your singles in. Would you, if you would you be interested in hearing the review of one of your singles inside?
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a terrible review.
It's for Cupid's like
Yeah, go for it, man.
watermelons. It says one long hot summer in Greece, I grew to hate Carpusi. Cupid sounds quite close to Carpusi, but I've no idea why a doll would be anything like watermelons. Therein lies some of the attraction of more Glasgow wonders and new potential media darlings, Urusei Yatsura. Who knows what on earth they are on about? But then again, who cares when it's this much fun? Available from Chai along with the upcoming and brilliant album, cunningly entitled We Are Urusei Yatsura, which contains this and their last 3 singles. Then it lists your last 3 singles: Plastic Ashtray, Siamese, and Colonel, as well as loads of other stuff. I particularly love all their singles and Powerball Phases on Stun, slash Solar Cola, Death to Everyone, and Road Song. Read more about UC well everywhere, really. So that's a good review. That was good.
Yeah, it's all right. Take that. They seem to like it. That's okay.
Yeah, I like collecting old fanzines when I see them pop up on eBay and auction sites and having a read for lost bands and things like that. Reviews of the time. They're really good.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a big box full of fanzines because we used to kind of like we say before, if we were on tour, you know, you're in a band on tour, you don't know anyone in half the cities, so it's just really nice if folk come along and talk to you, and you can sort of get them backstage and have a few beers and just kind of hang out rather than just being stuck with the same 4 people all the time. It's nice having some outsiders in.
Yeah,
But you'd kind of do a tour and do an interview with them. The next time they come along, give you the fanzine, or they send you in. So I've got a big box absolutely full of these things. It's a really good archive. I was thinking of maybe getting them digitized and getting them online at some point, as a kind of record. But who's got the time? It's sitting there. It's my ears can do it.
that would be a big task. That's scanning in every page.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like a good job if someone willing to pay you to do it. You can listen to some tunes while you're at it. But yeah, I just don't really have the time at the minute.
No. Well, let's move on then. So, Rick, just 1 second. So, a couple of years ago, was you involved in this? You had Plastic Ashtray put on the Martin Green's Supersonic Britpop Junk Shop compilation. That was in 2020. That came out.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I still haven't seen a copy of that. So there you
Oh,
go. That's
there you
cool.
go. There's one now.
That's it. Brilliant.
You're number 16 on disc 1. So I think a few people, if they didn't hear about it, I know a lot of people have bought that. I know a lot of people who have bought that. So yeah, I have that. And so this year you're releasing We Are Urusei Yatsura on vinyl again this year. What's prompted you to release that this year?
Well, I think it's something we kind of wanted to do just because I've kind of been sort of listening to all the kind of tunes again and kind of just want to make it available again, kind of for folk, if I have a second bite of the apple or whatever. But it's kind of I started kind of putting things on Bandcamp during lockdown, making kind of like some recordings free on there, like kind of live stuff, gigs, things like that, just for folk to get into, and just kind of grew a wee bit from there. So we did a kind of Peel Sessions record in 2016. And it's kind of just kind of moving on from that. So it's with the Shay, Vanita, who used to kind of be a part of Shay Records, like back in the 90s when we kind of did it first time round. So just kind of doing it among friends, really. But I think what is the real kind of nice kind of tie-in is I recently found like an old diary from like my university days from like 1994, and there's a wee picture in it and a kind of entry for the 9th of March, which was like us sitting in the rehearsal room with a cake with a candle on it, and it was first birthday of Urusei Yatsura. So I'm counting, the date of our band's birth is 9th of March, 1993. So that makes us like 30 years down the road somehow. So it just seemed really nice that we'd get this kind of debut album out in time for that, and just kind of as a wee bit of a celebration, to the folk who know us, and are still interested. I've got this theory: there's probably 1,000 people in the world who are interested enough to kind of buy it. So just this is just for them, just for the hardcore, or anyone else who wants to buy it. We don't ask it, to show their papers when they buy the damn thing, So it'd be really nice if some other kind of sort of youngsters kind of got into it, like kind of if people who are like between the ages of like 16 and 25 who are in as a the first time round, or kind of a wee bit older now, but maybe their kids would be into it too. That's absolutely fine. Anyone who wants to hear it. I think maybe it's because it's our stuff. We're kind of maybe a little less ubiquitous than some of the other kind of 90s bands. That they would definitely wouldn't have heard us on TV, as much as they would have heard Pulp and Oasis, and so we might not be considered their Daz band. It might just be something that
Yeah,
they've just discovered own, which is nice in a way, just to be that little bit outside the mainstream. People aren't sick of us yet. I guess. So the message is, buy this record, become sick of us. That's that's the key, mate. Key takeaway.
well, yeah, I am buying a record. I'm going to buy a copy of it. I've been playing it around my house the past week just to have a listen, and my children have had no choice but to listen to it. So I hope they're enjoying it. So
Yeah, God help them, but
now, what made you?
yeah, I got a good response from your old son.
It is on a clear vinyl, isn't it? It's not your regular black one.
Yeah,
Opted for it.
yeah, clear vinyl. Yeah, we were always just a big fans of kind of just differently colored kind of vinyl. It's the regular blacks is fine, but we always think, oh, what could it be more colorful? It's I kind of went a different direction this time by having kind of see-through vinyl. So yeah, it just kind of fitted nicely with the redesign. I think because when we came to do I mean, as I say before, I always did the covers for the records. When I came to do this, I realized all the original Polaroids were kind of like long gone. I don't think I got them back for the printers the first time. So I basically had to kind of reassemble like a new kind of like package. It's all kind of Polaroids we kind of had from the time, and kind of pictures, and other artwork. But I just wanted it to kind of be true to the original, but keep it just a kind of sort of new approach to it. And the first time round, to be honest, it was really half-arsed. We just kind of basically kind of rushed it without really knowing the kind of ins and outs of getting the record cover to look nice. So I think the guy just kind of basically plonked down the Polaroids and the positions I specified, and ran off like one scan of it. But this has been done properly this time. So it looks really nice. I'm really, really happy with the package. And as I was saying, I think just the kind of clear vinyl is the sort of thing that went with it the best. It seemed to demand that, with the design. So maybe the next time might be something different. I really hope we can do some more, and we'll have to figure out what colors of vinyl we'd like to use then.
Well, yeah, I mean that is putting it in, but definitely collectors got a completely different front cover to the original. You've gone for a clear vinyl instead of a black one. It's in it. From what I've seen from what you posted online, it looks very, very nice. And I was just going to ask you, is there anything else in the pipework following on from this? Anything like a box set or anything, or anything else coming? I think you might have planned.
We'll see what this does. I mean, we've had a really strong response in kind of pre-sales. As again, that's from people who know us and maybe follow us on Bandcamp, or Instagram or whatever. Folk who know of the band. But if it kind of takes off a wee bit, and sells well in the shops, we'll obviously kind of consider doing another one. I mean, I'd like to. I mean, I've not spoken with anyone about it or asked anyone's permission or anything like that, but we'll just see, how this one goes. And I'd love to do another one. I mean, a lot of the fun for me is just kind of sequencing records and doing covers for them. And just making a package that you think, oh, this is really nice. I can't wait for people to see this. It's all just about making something pretty.
Yeah,
It's the same, kind of the same idea with the music. We just want to make something that we thought sounded great. And by great, obviously, I mean fucked up. But it's that's part of the fun, isn't it?
yeah. Well, before we go, it can be found on Bandcamp, Kai. You can get all this on Bandcamp. That's where it can be purchased and everything.
Yep, yep. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there for like nothing as well. It's like pay what you want, which basically means I don't mind if you download it for nothing. It's a lot of kind of like live shows, things like that. We've recorded off of the desk. It's just nice to make things like that available, and we don't want money for it. We just want people
Yeah,
who are interested to be able to hear it. So you can download as much or as little as you can stand. But it's there. I'm just viewing it as an archive. It's just basically just showing, we're a Glasgow band. We existed. We played at this time. This is what we made, and we'd be really happy if anyone was interested in listening to it. And that's it. I mean, I kind of put a lot of old photos and stuff up on Instagram and Facebook, things like that, just because it's there. I've got a big box full of stuff, and I'd rather kind of share it with folk who care rather than just sit in it until I die. It's better. It's kind of out there. It's always really been our kind of attitude. Just do something, put it out, and see if people like it. It's things that we enjoy, and then hopefully other people would enjoy it too. And that's your kindred spirits, I guess, isn't it?
yeah. Well, no, cool. Well, I've been really enjoyed speaking to you, Graham. It's been a great chat, and I'm very privileged and
Yes.
really appreciating you giving up this time to speak to me. It's been really good.
It's just nice talking to folk who are interested in this sort of thing. It's absolutely no problem at all. Once I downloaded Zoom, once I figured out how to turn it on, it was absolutely fine.